Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com, as well as the YouTube channel and NoDQ&A videos affiliate RingsideNews.com. This could be the final episode of NoDQ&A video, which has me with the beard, because there are several stipulations in place for WrestleMania 32, and if any of them happen, the beard is gone. You know the stipulations, or at least you probably know by this point. You can check out my Twitter page for more details, or Facebook. I will be posting the stipulations on there. I'm not going to mention all of them here because it takes up too much time. There's actually, I think, 6 stipulations total. If any one of them happens at WrestleMania, the beard is gone. But enough of that. Got a lot of your questions here as we get closer to WrestleMania, which is this coming Sunday. First question today comes from DJ Stevie 5. It's about time, but how do you feel about the report that the Divas Championship will now change to the Women's World Champion? I am very happy about this news, and I hope the rumors are true. I hope that WWE rebrands the Divas division as the Women's division. I know the term Divas is beneficial to WWE from a marketing standpoint, but I like the fact that they're just being portrayed as women wrestlers, and WWE is taking the revolution seriously. I guess you could still use the Divas term, but at the very least, I'm happy if the rumors are true about the championship being changed. I was never a fan of that butterfly title. To me, it was just very tacky, and I like the fact that they're taking it more seriously by introducing a new championship belt, something that looks like a female version of the current WWE World Heavyweight Championship. I definitely feel that that's a step in the right direction, and with this Sunday's match possibly being an all-time classic women's match in WWE, it would be nice for the winner to get presented the new championship belt. So I hope it happens. I'm definitely a fan of it. Alright, this one comes from Sean T. Flick. Cesaro is expected back anytime now. How would you utilize him? I would have him be the one to take the IC title from Kevin Owens. Please answer in video. I would be fine with that for starters, having Cesaro win the IC title, and I think a Cesaro versus Kevin Owens feud would be awesome. I would definitely consider doing that, although I'm always looking at the bigger picture for Cesaro. I still think there's a chance to have him be a top guy in WWE. He can come back and get the push and become one of the top stars in the company. I know Vince isn't crazy about him, but he was getting some of the biggest reactions of anybody in WWE in recent history. You had fans bringing those Cesaro section signs, and he was getting huge reactions just by doing awesome stuff in the ring. I think Cesaro still has the potential to go far in WWE. You know, the promos, that is the one area that he's lacking in, but Roman Reigns isn't a great promo either, and WWE feels like going all the way with him. Cesaro is just such an incredible performer that I think he can overcome his other weaknesses, whether it's talking or not having enough charisma. He's just so damn good as an athlete and an in-ring performer that it makes up for those other faults. That's my opinion, at least. So I hope he comes back, and if he does win the IC title, that is the start of bigger things to come for him. Alright, this one comes from Ash. Do you think WWE will have Seth Rollins interfere or affect the outcome of Reigns versus Triple H? I think it could go for a good angle. On paper, it sounds like a logical idea, but from what I've heard, Seth Rollins is still several months away from being ready to get back in the ring, and I do not see the point in him interfering in a match if he's not ready to wrestle again. You know, him coming back, getting involved, and then he disappears for a couple more months. Not sure if that would work out, but Seth Rollins coming back or making some sort of cameo appearance at WrestleMania, I mean, it would be a nice moment, but at the same time, there's so many other things going on. I think I mentioned this before, between Cena coming back and The Rock being there. There's all these different things happening. I actually think a Seth Rollins return would not have as much impact. I think it's better to bring him back at Payback or Money in the Bank or Extreme Rules, at a pay-per-view where his return could be the top story of that pay-per-view and have the most impact. That's what I would do, at least. I don't feel it's necessary for Rollins to be at WrestleMania. Alright, this one comes from Callum. A lot of fans credit Charlotte, Sasha, Becky, and Bayley for changing women's wrestling in WWE, but what about Paige and Emma? I would definitely say Paige deserves some credit, and maybe Emma as well. The problem with Emma is I feel that she had a really lame gimmick between the music that she had and the dancing. I know it got over with some fans in NXT, but it did not translate well to the main roster. And as far as Paige goes, I think that maybe it was just a timing issue with her. She came in before the Divas Revolution became a big deal on the main roster, and then Paige became part of Total Divas, and you know, a lot of people don't take that show seriously, and she just gets bunched in with the Rosa Mendezes and the Mandys and all those people. I feel Paige should get a renewed push at some point, and I think if that happened, she would be able to shine with the other women that are currently on top, like Charlotte and Sasha Banks. Hopefully, she'll be taken more seriously, and same thing with Emma too. And it looks like they're repackaging Emma and changing up her gimmick, which is definitely a positive. All right, this one comes from The Architect. I know it's far away, but what are your WrestleMania 33 predictions and dream cards? Save the beard. Hashtag save the beard. It is really hard to say right now. I guess a dream match for me would be a Shield triple threat. I've been waiting. I keep saying week after week, month after month, I would like to see a Shield triple threat match. I think that that is easy money. That's an easy pay-per-view main event for a major show, whether it's WrestleMania or SummerSlam. I really do feel that the sooner they do it, the better. But, you know, they could wait another year and build that up for WrestleMania 33. And if Undertaker's still wrestling, maybe do the John Cena Undertaker match. That's a possibility for next year's WrestleMania, or maybe even do a slow build and set up John Cena versus Roman Reigns for WrestleMania 33. Regardless of what happens in the storylines, I would like to see people like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and AJ Styles in high-profile matches at next year's WrestleMania. Alright, this one comes from John G. Songman. Hey Aaron, what are your thoughts on Snoop Dogg going into the Hall of Fame? Third worst celebrity after Drew Carey and the refrigerator for me. Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of the celebrity wing. It just feels like WWE wants to get publicity, so they bring these guys in that really did not do all that much. You know, their name is going to give WWE headlines. Snoop Dogg going into the Hall of Fame. Rolling Stone will cover it. Other media outlets will cover it, TMZ, and so forth. It's just a publicity thing. That's all it is. And you just have to accept it for what it is. Because if you get yourself too worked up, you're just going to drive yourself nuts. I mean, I said it before about the WWE Hall of Fame. There is no criteria. WWE inducts whoever they want, depending on how they feel about that person at the time. If they're on good terms with somebody, that person is eligible for the Hall of Fame. And that's really all it takes. So, yeah, if this was a serious Hall of Fame, Snoop Dogg should not be in it. But he's related to Sasha Banks, and he's probably going to do her entrance at WrestleMania. At least that's what I've heard. So, they're doing something to please him and give him that Hall of Fame induction and just be on good terms with as many celebrities as they can. Alright, this one comes from Daniel Jobber. Watching WrestleMania 30 on the network. About an hour in and not one bad moment. That ranks as one of your top 5 WrestleManias, doesn't it, Aaron? Probably. I mean, I need to think about it for a second. I mean, definitely WrestleMania 3, an all-time classic show. WrestleMania 17, arguably the best WrestleMania. WrestleMania 19, in my opinion, the most solid card from start to finish. WrestleMania 20, and then maybe WrestleMania 30. I think that would be my top 5 right there, with the ones I went to, 21 and 31, being a top 7. So, yeah, WrestleMania 30 was, I mean, no doubt that was the best WrestleMania in a decade. I mean, that really was the best WrestleMania in terms of just quality and memorable moments. You know, there were so many disappointing WrestleManias from 25 through 29, and then 30, WWE finally delivered and exceeded expectations for once with WrestleMania, in my opinion. Alright, this one comes from the Daniel Allen. Why didn't they just do a triple threat between Luger, Bret Hart, and Yokozuna at WrestleMania 10 instead of the roundabout way they ended up with? You have to remember that there was no such thing as a triple threat match back then, at least on a mainstream level. I actually think ECW was the first promotion, the first mainstream promotion at least, to do what we now know as a triple threat match, and back then they called it a three-way dance. And I think in 1995 WCW did their own three-way match, which they called a triangle match, although back then they had it so it was two guys in the ring and then the third guy would come out, so it wasn't exactly a match where all three guys were in the ring at the same time. But that concept didn't really start to become commonplace in wrestling until 95, 96, and 97. So back then they didn't even have that as an idea. They just went with this concept where Bret Hart and Lex Luger had a tie and then did the whole coin toss thing so both guys could get the title shot. Alright, this one comes from ECW Fan 28. Back in the older years, there were so many photographers around the ring, and now there are none. Do you know why? Thanks. I'm not sure exactly, but I believe it was a Vince McMahon call, because having those photographers at ringside, that is very sports-like, and WWE isn't a sport, it's sports entertainment. I think Vince's mentality was it was too wrestling. I know they did bring back photographers, I think for WrestleMania 11, and that was probably to give it the big sports-like atmosphere because you had Lawrence Taylor as part of the show. But I think that was the only exception where they actually had an emphasis on photographers being out there at ringside to try to make the whole event feel like a big sports event. But for the most part, I think, and probably also from a production standpoint, having all those photographers at ringside can be seen as a distraction. You know, you want the people to focus on what's going on in the ring and not have too many people out there just because it makes everything cluttered and too busy, and, you know, just like sometimes they turn down the lighting so everything is focused on what's going on in the ring. I mean, that could be a reason as well. Alright, this one comes from Eli Garcia. Hey Aaron, biggest babyface in modern WWE history. Jeff Hardy, Rey Mysterio, or Daniel Bryan? That is a tough one because what is the criteria exactly? I mean, it's hard to say who was the biggest draw or who sold the most merchandise. I know that Jeff Hardy, all three of them really sold a ton of merchandise for the company, not at John Cena levels. So really, if we're going by merchandise sales, John Cena would be the biggest babyface, even though a lot of people boo him. When it comes to merchandise sales, Cena was at the top. In terms of longevity, Rey Mysterio was on top for a long time. He was one of the biggest superstars in WWE from when he came in 2002 all the way into 2013 and 2014 when he wrapped up his run. But Daniel Bryan, he had perhaps the biggest moment of the three of them, winning the world title at WrestleMania and just getting that amazing crowd reaction. So it's a really hard question to answer because it just depends on what your criteria is. Alright, this one comes from Liam Tennant. Salutations, Aaron. Do you think we will ever see Rob Van Dam in a WWE ring again, or has he had his last run? You would have to ask RVD, and I'm guessing his answer would be never say never. I think that it's possible we'll see him make a cameo appearance. Maybe one day he'll show up in the Royal Rumble again, or appear on a Raw special, a old school Raw, or any number of things where he can just come in for a one-off deal, just a one-shot situation. I think it's unlikely he comes back and has a regular run again, and you know, I really don't blame him. I mean, his last run was him and Ricardo being paired up, and that really did not go over very well. Wasn't a big deal. So I think he's happy just laying low. I mean, he had a great career, and there's really nothing left for him to do. I mean, maybe he could do training with the NXT guys. I mean, I'm sure that there's always a spot open for him if there's something he wants to do. I just sense, you know, he's happy just laying low and not being too involved. Alright, this one comes from Marcus S. Which match ending is better? Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair at WrestleMania 24 or Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker at WrestleMania 26? Another really tough question to answer because it just depends on your own personal opinion and your own criteria. I felt more emotionally invested personally in Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels because I felt at the time watching it that Ric Flair was done and his career was over. When Flair went to TNA and started wrestling again, it hurt my reaction to Shawn Michaels and Undertaker because something told me watching that since Flair came back, Shawn Michaels might come back, and that hurt the match for me personally a little bit. I mean, both were really well done, and as it turned out, Shawn Michaels never did wrestle again. I thought both storylines were really well done, and both matches were very emotional. So I really have no preference at this point. I think both were very well done. Alright, this one comes from Hamp. Why do you think the live crowds only cheer for certain things when in the Attitude Era they were into the whole show? Well, first off, that's not exactly true about the Attitude Era fans being into the whole show. There were a lot of segments where the crowd was dead and would even chant boring sometimes during undercard matches. A perfect example would be the St. Valentine's Day Massacre pay-per-view. Fans started chanting boring early in the show. So it wasn't like these crowds were red hot from start to finish. However, when they were hot, they were probably hotter than anything we see in WWE today, with the exception of Daniel Bryan when he was on top of his run. And that was because the product was very hot, and Steve Austin was red hot, The Rock was red hot, and business was booming. I mean, wrestling was at its peak of popularity during that time. So that is why the Attitude Era fans overall were more into the show, because the product was hotter. Alright, that'll wrap it up for this edition of NoDQ&A video, the last one until WrestleMania. You can send in questions at twitter.com/AaronRift, but keep in mind that if they're dated, I'm probably not going to answer them. So you may want to hold off on your questions until after WrestleMania is over, once I start doing NoDQ&A videos again next week, and time will tell if I have the beard or not. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for all the latest regarding WrestleMania, and I will see you guys next time.